Yeah. Okay.
Good luck.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hi guys. My name is Subhan Abdul. I just like to know how many guys attended last session. Uh,
I think Corato attended, if I'm not wrong.
yeah.
I would stay.
Yeah, you can raise your hands if maybe it's easy to say who is not attended, right? Akshay has not attended,
Yes.
but
Actually,
anyone else is not attended last session? You can
This
raise
correct.
your hand.
I didn't attend the last session.
You did not attend the last session, Coretta. Okay.
Right, correct.
Okay. Okay. So you can give a brief introduction at a very high level and then move on to your agenda. Abdul.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good luck.
Yeah. Just give a brief overview of Playwright. Playwright is a tool currently is owned by Microsoft. It's open source. Originally, it was owned by Puppet. Now Microsoft owns it. Basically, it's a Node.js library to automate Chromium, Firefox, WebKit with single API. If you see, if you compare with Selenium, if you want to use Chromium, it needs to have a Chromium WebDriver. Firefox, it needs to have Firefox WebDriver. In order to that hassle is not there with respect to Playwright. Again, it is a cross-browser, fast and reliable. If you visit this link, Playwright, it gives you more information. Again, basic cool features of Playwright is headless execution. No need of another extension as in the compared to Selenium, where you need to have another extension to execute headless. It has auto waits for elements. It supports multiple languages such as Java, C#, Python, and TypeScript. Another most important feature is you can interact with the network activity, which other tools has limited capability compared to Playwright. And then you can able to emulate different browser mobile devices, and then it has a built-in features of you can capture videos, screenshots, and then you can record a script whatever you want. It has a built-in tool to record a script by using CodeGen. Then how to install is just say npm I -d playwright. You can able to install uh, on your IDE. Basically, I use Visual Code to install. It's pretty much quite simple to install. You want to install Playwright, just use this command. You need to have a basic requirement is npm. No, npm needs to be installed on your system. Network. Okay, if it's already installed, it has it's pretty much fast. Otherwise, it takes some time. I'll show you I'll execute one of the basic script. What we do is node and then device launch.
And just one add-on to what Abdul is saying. So we are currently using uh, JavaScript to create tests, but it does support TypeScript, Python, and other languages, C Sharp. So whatever language you're comfortable with, you can use those libraries. They pretty much work the same way. So we needed one language where we can showcase all its abilities. So we've been doing our sessions in Python till now, so we thought we'll do something new. And Abdul came up with let's do it with JavaScript, and so this is on the JavaScript library.
If you look at the device launch script, it's quite simple. First, we have to import the Playwright libraries, and then here you can in this here we can say which browser we want to use: Chromium, Firefox, or WebKit. In this here we have to initialize a browser. In this we can specify whether it's headless or headful. We can say headless is false, and then we can enable developer options. Again, you can able to select which device you want to select, whether iPhone. It is pretty neat. It has a built-in feature. Gives a list of devices available, and you can select the devices you want. Again, you have to get a context, and in the page here, if you compare Selenium, for everything is a driver. Drivers controls everything, but in Playwright, for browser, it has a browser constants. A page, it has a browser constants. With that, you can play around. That's one of the basic script of what we covered last time. We covered about how to launch a browser. Today, what I'm going to cover is called test runner. So test runner is that. Okay, test runner. It's an add-on which gives us a framework where we can able to come up with our own framework. It has built-in features. For example, in C# we have NUnit. In Java we have TestNG. In JavaScript we have Mocha and Chai. But when it comes to Playwright, it's a test runner called Folio. The advantage of Folio is we don't need to initialize browser and browser contacts. Is a command line tool. You can run particular tests on all browsers. I can else you can specify which browser you want to learn. It can run in both headless and headful mode, and then you can able to control the speed, and you can able to take screenshot on failure and capture windows. For that, you need to have, in order to use Folio, you need to install Folio. How you can do this is just run this command. Basically, it's a add-on. For Java, we have TestNG. It's a framework which supports various features, like you can built-in method, like to start it before test, after test. You want to run a specific test a number of times. Those things can be indicated by using Folio. In order to use Folio, these are some, you have to specify the test script as a test script name.spec.ts. It uses test. They recommend to use a TypeScript to create in order to use Folio. So these are simple test script supported by Folio. What we use import. There's a basic ID is to declare function, and then describe, expect is for assertion, and then these are library. If I go inside, it tells you what are the various options available. For example, what are in this on command line, you can say which browser you want to use, hit full platform, then screenshot on failure, slow, and video. These are things we can be done with, these options are available in the command line option. Let me run this Folio.
Before that, Abdul, can you explain what's on the screen, right? What my first test case is doing and why we are using it, and
Okay.
then
So in this, when it comes to test runner, if you look at this script, here we have to initialize a browser, and then we have to initialize a browser context. But in Folio type test case, we don't have to initialize it because Folio will test runner will handle that. Here we just need to initialize a page. So here I'm not declaring any browser or instance of the browser. I'm just declaring the page variable. If you compare here, that's one of the advantage of going with a test runner. And then, yeah, again, I'm not indicating which browser I want. On the command line, I can specify which browser I want to use. And then here, what I'm doing is I'm creating a page instance. Again, I use a page instance to go to a specific page. In Selenium, we use a driver.navigate to a specific page. If I do dot, it gives me a list of options available. What other things I can do? Go to inner text, pause, on, off, open, pause. You can convert it to PDF, reload, screenshot. Wait for event. Again, it's simple script. Let me run this folio test case, and yeah, what are the options we can able to do? So what I'm doing is what is doing? It is running into 3 browsers. One is Chrome. Next is Firefox. Audible.ca is opening up the website. And then next should be WebKit. This is a WebKit. Then it will give you the result, pass or fail. In the command line, you can specify various. Right now, we executed same test case on 3 different browsers. If you want a specific browser, we can also specify in equals Firefox. This will execute a specific test case only in Firefox browser. Yep. There's a cool feature of using a folio as a test runner. Next one is, do you guys have any question? Basically, this is also a first time for me. I'm also learning, just like you guys.
This is
So
really good. Yeah, no, this is good. So just to clarify a couple of things. So NPX Folio is nothing but a wrapper on top of the test runner that JavaScript provides. It's basically helps you not to create a lot of boiler code. In order to create tests, you can directly jump in and create tests and run them without having to set any configuration for test running, right? So in that regards, it's kind of a wrapper that builds around any test runner that JavaScript provides. I'm not sure which one it wraps. Does it wrap Mocha or Chai or Jasmine? It looks like a Jasmine syntax. So I believe it's Jasmine. So it's giving you additional flexibility not to write any configuration code, not to write any boiler code for Playwright, and just jump in and start creating tests. So you can focus on the Playwright framework rather than how to run it and creating framework for running those tests. It also helps in if you're doing any CI/CD, this really helps in to obtain that flawlessly in terms of not to create a lot of configuration for CI/CD. It will all be built in the folio.
that's one topic also. Next one is network capture. Okay, here this is a simple script. What it does is, if other tools has limited feature to capture network activity, what I'm doing here is I'm going to Amazon.ca. So you see all the images, right? Playwright gives an option, you can disable the images. So doing the same thing, this my script, what I'm doing is initiating a browser, the contacts to capture video, then page is being created. And by using the route is to here I'm passing the, if I go dot, see in this, it gives me all the things, what are the things I can do. These are feature is provided by Playwright. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for all these images. Then I'll see is the resource type is image, then don't take it. If it's not image, then continue. Also, it also has option to capture a trace. Trace is nothing but if I go to inspect developer option, network activity. Basically, yeah, with this information is quite helpful to find out how much time it takes page to load, and then developers, this information can be very helpful for developers. So this feature is also provided using a Playwright using start tracing. If
Also,
I use
you can capture the tracing and add performance test to it, right? So it's kind of the
okay.
same pipeline that you can create for both functional and performance test.
Okay. So let me run this. See, you don't see any images. There's a cool features provided by Playwright. I don't see this option in our other tools. That's what I can say. Also, you can it allows the capability to capture the events. There's a lot of things you can do with Playwright. Okay. Even you can able to capture console log, why it is failing. All these few things can be captured using a Playwright by using options. There's something called page dot open. Not able to recall console, how to capture console log, but you can able to capture console logs too. So that's about network activity. Yeah. Okay, for the resources you can go to is this is one of the best resource which tells you what are the command line options you can use with a Playwright. As a test runner, folio test runner, I'll paste it in the channel. Then yeah. So that's about my session for today. Sumit, you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I'll give you a background on Playwright,
Yeah.
right? So why Playwright was created. So Microsoft had its own browser, right, which was IE 11, and they moved to Edge. Edge was not on Chromium, right? So they had this big project that's still not rolled out perfectly. But what they're doing is that changing the IE engine, because Chromium engine was built by Google and it was direct competition of Microsoft. But then slowly realized the market penetration of Chrome was way higher because of the Chromium engine is really good and it's open source, right? So what they did, they ported the Chromium engine behind their Edge uh, browser, right? Now that project is still going on, and in order to test that, they created this Playwright, right? Now, because Microsoft is Microsoft, so they put a lot of advanced features in order to capture what uh, other tools couldn't. Because firstly, it became open source later on, but it was like a paid project where everyone was working on testing Edge on Chromium, and they created this framework for it, and then they open sourced it, right? So that the whole community can use it. Now, the rollout of Edge Chromium is still pending. That's why when you look at the repository of Playwright, it says it's not production ready yet. Stay tuned. That means they're still working on it. They keep adding new features on it. It's a direct competition to Selenium, right? It's not built on top of Selenium like other tools are or other frameworks are. So it's a direct competition to Selenium in terms of that what features it can provide, Selenium might lack in those features, right? Now, because they're building Chromium, so they could go inside and get all that information that it is getting now. Selenium also does similar things, but then they roll out pretty slowly. The maintainer community is getting reduced on Selenium. Uh, the Playwright one, it's starting to gain attraction. A lot of features that you can think are required for modern browsers, like tracing stacks as well as network information, was kind of built into Playwright now, right? And again, as Abdul showed, very neat features of not loading the graphics at all, right? And that makes your test super fast, right? Because it's not loading any image. So those are some of the features. Again, Playwright is a budding framework, and in my view, it's going to gain a lot of traction once it's production ready. If you are if you beforehand know what Playwright can do, you can actually pitch in terms of if someone asks you what tools should we look for automating the UI. You If someone is suggesting Selenium, you can in parallel suggest Playwright in those regards. It's not a competition to the commercial tool sets like Test Project and Catalan Studio. Those are really good community driven commercial tools. uh, those are open source as well, but now they have started moving into commercial arena. But then the support is big behind Playwright. It's Microsoft, so uh, I could only wish them good luck in terms of having this production ready soon and really make a dent in the automation market.
Also for the newbie, for last session, I did specify this recorder. This is a cool feature which provides by here. You can select which language do you want to record. For example, I start recording. I say signing. In this, the scripts gets recorded, what all the activities we are doing. Also here we can select which language we want the script should be. In Java, TypeScript, Python, async Python, and C#. So just cut and paste if I want to use in JavaScript. Just copy this script and paste it in my folder and then use it. Once see here, it tells me instruction also what it is doing is open a new page, go to amazon.ca and then context close, browser close. This is a very good feature. Like what I see is very helpful. Yeah. The
What
command says,
language does it support?
sorry,
What all languages? Can you show one more time? All
yeah,
languages?
JavaScript,
Yeah.
Java. See, the same code gets converted into Java language. Python. Can you guys see it? I'm not able to increase the size.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Python, async Python, and then C#. These are the languages supports as of now.
So if you guys want to ramp up on any automation tool and your organization says that I want the scripts the next day, so you can use this feature actually to have at least a base, and then you can make it a modular framework later on. But for any immediate demo or any immediate uh, script creation, this feature is actually very cool.
Also, what I see is it's quite a flexible Playwright. It has a concept of fixtures where you can plug and play what you want, which you don't want. Currently, it is what is using. It is built-in Chrome browser is being used. If you want your own local Chrome browser, that also can be done. Yeah. So, any more questions? Also, the object identification is also quite intuitive with Playwright compared to Selenium.
Yeah, with Selenium, you mostly get CSS selectors and XPath selector, but then it doesn't optimize those selectors. I think Playwright optimizes to some extent.
Yes.
It's not perfect, but then it optimizes really good.
So do you think that companies will switch from using Selenium to using Playwright?
So it depends, right? It depends on at what stage your framework is ready. So let's say I'm running 1,000 tests in Selenium and all are working perfectly. It will be a hard case to switch to Playwright. If I'm just ramping up on a new project, that is a very good use case for Playwright. If I'm having a Selenium framework which is very flaky, Playwright is a perfect fit for those needs. But if you say that the implementation on Selenium for a particular organization runs uh, kind of a lot of tests and they are very stable, which is really 0.01% uh, organizations, those will not really have a use case to use any other tool.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was thinking about some of the things that I'm working on where I believe like some of the pages are going to be more dynamic, so they will be harder to actually automate. So I don't know what the difference is, since I'm new at using some of the tools. I don't really know what the difference would be.
I'll tell you what the benefit is, right? Because so one thing is the JavaScript, right? You can so any implementation of Selenium, you basically have to execute JavaScript in order to use dynamic elements, right? You are building a framework on JavaScript, right, which is the browser language. So that gives you instant access to any element that or any action that you can perform on browser. So it really depends on how dynamic your page is. If it is a single page application or it's inbuilt uh, BI tool sets like Power BI and Click, something similar, it will be definitely hard to automate. But I'll tell you this, right? If you use Playwright, it will still be a little simpler than what you will use for Selenium. Uh, because of a lot of portability in terms of the inside access to Chromium engine is much better in Playwright than in Selenium. The only challenge right now is that Microsoft doesn't consider Playwright to be production ready, right? So you still have to play around, do a single test POC on both Selenium and Playwright, and see which one fits your need.
Okay.
Also, the learning curve for Playwright is faster compared to Selenium.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yes, Akshay.
Hey Sumit and hey Abdul, thanks for nice session and Sumit for giving more clears about the topic. I see you were comparing Selenium and Playwright.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about Cypress? Like, did you check that or?
Cypress has a lot of limitation in terms of, so basically Cypress has become kind of, we discussed this in our last session as well.
Okay.
So Cypress has kind of become like a developer tool, right? Rather than an end-to-end automation testing tool, right? So that framework basically really helps uh, developers in terms of testing their end-to-end component or unit test, right? Uh, but if you look at any end-to-end automation testing, uh, it's very difficult. So simple limitations like Cypress is we cannot use Cypress to drive multiple browsers at a given time, right? Uh, Cypress doesn't even provide support for multiple tabs, right? And it only supports JavaScript.
Yeah, those are the limitation. But right now, if you see the trending of testing is quite changing. So I use a Cypress in Vodafone Ziggo, and we use really at low level, like we do the network intercepting commands
Right,
like
right.
everywhere, and we test our front end in totally in isolation because back end is developed by some another company for us. So we want to make sure front end is working fine for us. So we have,
Correct.
yeah,
But again, it depends on your landscape, right? So if you
yeah,
need, let's say you are a very heavy uh, UI loaded application, right? You really want to test it in multiple browsers, right? Uh, in that regard, you will not find Cypress the right tool to do that.
yeah, true. That was a limitation with me also. I was doing that, and last month we had a bug in Safari.
Yeah,
So I tried with a test cafe. So test cafe and Cypress, I can relate. Like it took me like 2 days to migrate like end-to-end test from
correct.
Safari to test cafe. I can relate both more or less because
Right.
you don't need even a driver in test cafe. So you can just use a
Right.
proxy to connect with the browser. So I'm
Correct.
just wondering, like, because I was also in some session with the Playwright comparison with the Cypress with the Selenium.
Hmm.
So the limitation of the Cypress is more or less, yeah, they don't support Safari. So I saw their last pull request, like they are doing the POC right now. Maybe end of this year. I talked to like their head of development. They are also planning to come at the end of this year. Maybe Safari because one of the big feature. If they have that, then maybe some company go for end-to-end testing. I do end-to-end testing also with the Safari. Oh, sorry, with the Cypress
Right.
on Chrome.
No,
Chrome.
no, no. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. So what happens is, right? So Cypress, because Cypress has limitations, and you have better frameworks out there available with you. Now, if you look at the the advantages that other frameworks provide that are based on top of Selenium. Let's assume Selenium. Let's compare Cypress to Selenium, right?
Cypress
Now,
Selenium are not comparable. Like they both have totally different architect. That's what I think. Like this.
correct. So what we are comparing is not their internals, right? Let's
Okay.
compare from testing perspective. What makes more sense to me, right? So I have Playwright, I have Cypress, I have Selenium.
Mm-hmm.
Now my organization will ask me what tool you want to use, right? Now I have to give them reasons. One of the major reason right now is that the same test should run on multiple browsers. If my application is UI loaded, because today or tomorrow that request is going to come to you,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of the major features, right? So you compare on the feature aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no UI test in current landscape where you only run on one browser, right? There will always be a request that will come either today, 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year later, right? That
Mm-hmm.
can you run on a different browser as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then it depends on your team as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the automation testers, what I've seen is, are not very handy on JavaScript, right? Because they've been developing since beginning on mostly Java, and now they've switched to Python. So that landscape is big, right? The ramp up time on that for a team is minimum, right? So if I tell them, who is working in Java for the last 5 years, I ask him, can you deliver me in 2 days and do it in JavaScript and not in Java? He will be like, what, why, right? So it all depends on what features, what aspects you're looking at. If I am the only tester in the organization, I might choose Cypress, right? Because it's easier for me. I know JavaScript. I know everything about how development is working. I'll do it. I'm pretty sure your team of testing is not big, right?
Yeah. No, we are more T-shaped, and our job is also not about testing. We like developing.
Correct.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
So that's what I'm saying, right? So it has become more of a developer tool rather than the testing tool. I'm giving you the practical landscape, right? I'm not going into why you are using it. I'm just saying what the current landscape is and what are the things people consider, right? I agree. For a T skill, that makes complete sense because you're in your own pod, you are developing your T skills, you select a framework that developers and testers both are comfortable with because it's T shape, developers have to pitch in and write the test as well, right?
yeah.
So
At the end, the goal is like the squad should be able to do. It should not be
exactly,
dependent upon tester or a developer. They should be
exactly,
able to do their end-to-end testing, and they can.
exactly, right,
So,
right.
so our criteria was different. We choose a language where all can contribute, not only tester. So,
Exactly. So that's why it's very important that the landscape is understood before selecting a tool, right? So that's what I'm telling you. 95% of the testing community right now is who don't work in squads, right? Who are
mm,
not on that T-shaped model. They're
mhm.
still working on either Java or Python.
True, true, true. I'm also from that background. I use UFT, then Selenium for some
Correct.
time, then Nightwatch. I started in JavaScript
Correct.
Nightwatch, then Test Cafe. Now I love Cypress. I'm a big fan of
But
Cypress.
now, if you want to really consider, you can actually pitch Playwright in
Yeah.
your team because you can port JavaScript to JavaScript, and Playwright will give you in the same amount and better functionality than Cypress.
No, that was a thing I'm struggling a little bit. I need to do the cross-browser testing now, a little bit with the Safari,
Mhm.
and I can't migrate like my 120 end-to-end test cases directly from Cypress to that. So I want to also mitigate the risk. Let's have 10 scenario in Safari, another Chrome are working fine.
No,
So
no. So what I'm saying is because you're already writing in JavaScript, you can basically use the same framework and
mm,
just port the things that you really need in Playwright and slowly do one by one. So if you're only doing cross browser, let's keep it at cross browser for now, right? But
mhm.
then you can run the Playwright in any browser that you want, right? Later on. So look at both the things. Implement Playwright at a very uh, nascent level of migrating one or two tests, but use the same framework that you're using with Cypress.
Yeah, let's don't go in that different discussion. I just more curious. I saw a demo from Abdul, like he's using WebKit on Windows machine, and if I try to run the same test on Mac, like a MacBook, do you see the difference there, or it is no
It works
different?
same. It works the
No,
same.
the driver is same, right? So it will not be any different.
Yeah, because you might be aware of the concept of visual regression testing.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So when I take the image on my machine and when I take the image in a container, like a Docker container,
Oh,
and I
it will
compare,
that will change, right? Because you might be running at a different resolution, different version. It all depends on what version you are deploying in your container and your current Windows version. There will be pixel differences for sure. So visual regression will definitely be based on browser, your platform, either it's Windows or Linux or Mac, and your resolution, right? So all three play a role in capturing a visual regression. It's not going to be very simple doing visual regression and it's not only with Playwright, it's true with any tool that you're going to use, right?
uh,
So even if you use Apply tool, you use Percy, you're going to face the same issue.
yeah, that I totally agree. Was the thing is like the engine behind is WebKit for Safari and for Chrome, like Chromium. but it depends upon which operating system you are. I'm just thinking because at the end I need to run my test in the pipeline, so I need one kind of a image where I can run our test, because right
But
now
why
there
are
is.
you running on different platforms? You should be uh, switching to so if you're really going to keep it simple, even if you use, let's say, browser stack to run multiple versions of browsers and different permutation combination of your resolutions as well as uh, your browser version and platform, you're gonna create multiple baselines for your visual regression. You cannot put visual regression from without the combination of three. So these three needs to be there as a combination to capture one visual regression.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not going to the visual regression. For example, same test Abdul run, he want to run inside the pipeline.
Oh
So
yeah,
he need some kind of a, let's say he's running in Jenkins, GitLab, whatever. He
yeah,
needs some kind of a Docker image and a container, and the container are Linux based. So
right.
in a Linux based, you can't open a Safari browser because a
No,
Safari,
no. Okay,
and
okay, okay. So I got your point.
yeah,
So
so
that's true, but then Playwright does provide you. You can actually use a Linux container, which is let's say Ubuntu, and it
mm,
does provide you with basically a UI that where you can run your WebKit browser on. So
okay.
container will still be there, but then you can use VNC, right, in the Linux container itself to look what's happening behind the scene.
Yeah, no, but that we don't need to look. But if it is working on my machine, even 99% it will work. But if I need to debug in the container, then I could need some kind of a virtual machine to see, okay, where things are going wrong.
Right,
So
right.
because the struggle is there, even Cypress support, let's say Safari, we need their Docker image,
You
which can,
actually don't need to see to debug. You can really make your logging better
yeah,
in the framework to analyze where what is the point of failure, right? And then you know exactly. Let's say it fails on an element, you exactly know which element it failed, and it will throw a very descriptive narrative of your log saying that this element or this item was not found on the screen, right? You the Playwright does provides a video capture, so you can capture those videos and keep it in a Linux folder, and then when you go back, you can actually look at those videos and see where it failed.
yeah, yeah, same, yeah. Cypress we using a dashboard. Yeah, I'm just comparing that more Cypress and Playwright, not Selenium, because I
Yeah,
didn't give Selenium since almost 2.5 years.
yeah,
So I'm
that's
just
okay. I mean, both have similarities to some extent, but then Playwright gives you additional functionalities, right?
yeah,
Uh, and, and I believe Cypress, because Microsoft is behind Playwright, and they're working on current Chromium engine. They are going to be more advanced than whatever Cypress provides. So they're
yeah,
going to add more features, new features, and really make it simpler for any ramp up of or migrating of tests.
yeah. That's why that's what the creator of this Playwright, they gave the meetup last week, Andre, and I also asked the same question to him. Then he
Okay,
said, okay, they are going to be far better than Cypress.
right.
But then Cypress people are also working fast to have all the nice fancy features more. Yes, I just like they are also working hard because now it's going very fast, Cypress and
So
Playwright.
I'll tell you, right? So it depends on what company is behind it, right?
Yeah,
Who has more manpower? It's all money game, right? Um, I believe that Playwright, if Microsoft really goes behind it, Playwright can become one of the top tools in automation landscape.
yeah, yeah. To this one because I'm leaving Vodafone, to be honest. I'm leaving my current company. I'm going to join a new startup, and I need to roll the whole test automation strategy.
Right.
So need to be very careful where Cypress and where Playwright. Playwright I can use for end to end maybe, but
Yep.
if I working with the team with the front end developer, I would still prefer Cypress. That's still my feeling. I need
So
to do some
what I would
POC.
say is,
Yeah.
if you're ramping up on a very new project, implement both POCs side by side, right? And just sit together with your team and think about what makes more sense to you, and what features you really need in your test, and your development, and then you can take a call from there, right?
Yeah.
I would it's not going to be hard POC, right? It's a 2 days POC in any of those tools?
No, POC doesn't matter. When the more complicated tests come, for example, Cypress, I can't do the payment. I can't test the ADN and everything. I can't do any end-to-end. So I struggle only for end-to-end testing with the Cypress.
Correct.
But the lower level, like Abdul shows, you can delete the pictures. You can do whatever network request. You can do anything with the Cypress also.
Yeah. Correct.
You-
Correct.
So lower level Cypress working like a charm, but end-to-end is creating a lot of issues. Still,
Correct.
I'm struggling. Second tab I can't open.
So for end-to-end, you might not even use Cypress, right? Or if you're using for end-to-end, you're using Playwright, you might choose a different language altogether, which will give you more flexibility to add back-end testing, validation included in the front-end testing as well, right? So you can use Python, you can use Java.
Yeah, that's true, but still I'm right over TypeScript, JavaScript, my language little bit. So I
Yep.
move around that. And I'm
Yeah, it all depends, right? If your whole landscape is, let's say, the front end landscape is Spring Boot, and the back end middleware is Spring Boot, and then your back end is, let's say, NoSQL database, and your only front end is very limited, what you will do, right? It
yeah,
all depends on
yeah.
what landscape you're working on, and you select your tool based on that.
Yeah, my new company is more like e-commerce. So we have a React JS, we are migrating, and there is a GraphQL, not even a REST API.
Right.
They're all modern tech. So yeah, it's going to be lessy, but I'm just playing with the Playwright. I'm going to start some POC this weekend to see how the Playwright is and playing with all the features. So let's
Awesome.
see. Yeah, thanks for all the answers, Sumit. Thanks.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. So, Sumit, what's the plan for next 2 weeks?
So next 2 weeks we will have one working session on this, where we will ask the whoever is attending to do create one test, and we'll give the scenario, and we'll on live session we'll basically ask them to create a test. And the next session, it will be more on the advanced features and maybe some integration with CI/CD.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So then we can close this week's session. And Akshay, thanks for a great conversation. Let's continue on this
Yeah, the only
next week if you are available to attend.
yeah, only problem is 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock right now in Amsterdam morning. So I can't manage unless I have a holiday next day. So that's the only thing.
No
So
issues.
maybe,
So we
maybe
normally have a Codathon session, like 4 to 6 sessions. I think this session is planned for 4 sessions. Today is the second one, and 2 more to go to close on this. Yeah.
yeah.
All
Thanks.
right. It was nice meeting you. Anyways, we got connected in LinkedIn. We'll continue to keep in touch. All right. Thanks, guys. You all have a wonderful day, and talk to you all soon then. Bye.
Thanks, Abdul. That was a great session.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.